morning, everyone. I'm Mark Fraser, founder of the Mark One Real Estate Wealth Academy. We're going to talk about how to build wealth and retire without saving money today. There we go. All right. Just a quick snapshot of my bio. If you want to learn more about my history, go to our website, mark1wealthacademy.com. You can see I'm the founder of Mark One Mortgage and Mark One Real Estate Wealth Academy. I got in the real estate industry in 1977 at 18. Sold houses for about a year. I moved over, became a loan officer at 19. Did well as a loan officer at 22. I started my own company, Mark One Mortgage, which I've had now for 40 years and some change. Over my long journey in the real estate mortgage industry and as an investor and a lender, and not just loaning money from the mortgage company, but learning my loan well, personal money, worked with a lot of different investors, I've learned some powerful and profound facts about wealth growth, which I'm going to show you today, but also about strategies that until now have never been brought to consumers or frankly to the real estate industry, to real estate agents. That's why I created the Mark One Real Estate Wealth Academy. So you're going to learn a lot of these things. Amazing that these things haven't been brought to the world before, but they haven't, and this is what I'm talking about. And that's just the simple truth of it. More Americans are struggling for financial security in retirement than ever. There's been a big shift in our country. Post-World War II, we had this big expansion, a lot of big companies. Most of these companies started, and I'm talking in the private sector, started pension plans. And so through the 50s and 60s, that generation had pensions. But in the 70s, things started to gradually shift. We started moving more toward a global economy, and private sector pensions started fading away. In the late 70s, the 401k and the IRA were created, and the game plan was, well, let's use the 401k and IRA to replace the disappearing private sector pensions. And you work in the private sector, very few have a pension, and the ones that do, it's pretty paltry. Now, if you work in the government, that's a different deal. If you're school teachers and things of that nature, state and federal government have good pensions. And here's what's great about a pension. If you can plug into it, and it's kind of autopilot, the years go by, 25, 30 years go by, and then boom, you can retire. That's not true with a 401k or IRA. 77% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you live paycheck to paycheck, what good is a 401k or an IRA? 80% of Americans, if they were to retire, would run out of money in less than 5 years. The strategy, the objective of creating the 401k or the IRA pensions so that the American people could reach financial security and retire has been just a big lie. It has failed miserably. I'm going to show you the stats, because the stats are really shocking. So what do you believe is possible for your life financially? This is the biggest challenge that I have and why we're doing these consumer events, we're doing these presentations, is because what people believe is possible is so far from reality. So we all believe different thoughts about different areas, but we all believe things based on what we personally know or personally experience. Well, let me ask you a question in this line. What percentage of all the world's knowledge do you personally have in your brain? And when I ask people that question, usually the answer I get is not very much, like 1 or 2%. And I agree, that's true for all of us. If we have 1 or 2% of all the world's knowledge, we're lucky. Here's my point. If we only have 1 or 2% of all the world's knowledge, then why are we so rooted in beliefs as if we really know it? Well, that's what I want to change today. Is I want to change your beliefs about what is possible, because I know, because I've lived it. I know what is possible because I've lived it. I've made the journey. I'm going to show you. I need you to open your mind to learn possible is so beyond what you believe because it's tied to what you know. And I'm going to change what you know in a powerful and profound way. So here are the 3 questions that have driven my financial life. Now, as I mentioned, I started my own company when I was 22. And I was making good money in my early 20s. By 24, 25, I started looking and saying, okay, what should I do with this money? What is the path? So here are the 3 questions. First question, what's the fastest and safest path to wealth? Is it stocks? Is it real estate? Is it gold? Is it something else? What is it? If you just knew the answer to that you knew the fastest way to grow your wealth and the safest way to protect it so that you would not go backwards, that you could grow wealth at an incredible rate and have it safe and not go backwards. If you just knew the answer to that is life altering. Number 2, is there a formula to wealth that I can follow? Now, if you've worked with a financial planner, I was introduced to 2 different financial planners. Well, actually, more than that, but I actually hired 2. I did introduce, I hired 2 financial planners. And those of you who have a 401k or know what I'm talking about. The conversation is something like this. Is you meet a financial planner, it's okay, we're going to set you up in a 401k. They tell you a little bit about the parameters of 401k and how you can delay paying income tax on it and how you're going to put this money in your, take it out of your paycheck, put it in the 401k. You're not going to have to pay tax on it yet. And then we're going to invest it and grow it. And it's pretty much on autopilot. And for most people, it's even on ignore. And then they get the statement, they go, oh, how do I do? But they have no idea really where the money's going. They don't understand how these companies work. And here's my point. Is that a formula? Is that really a formula you know and understand and can control? No, it's, you walk in and you try to save, maybe set up a budget of what you can save, but how is that process going to work? And most importantly, where is it going to lead you? Because once the years are gone, they're gone. There's no going back. There's no chance to do it over. There's no financial do-overs. When you're 65, you're 65, and that's just the way it is. Number 3, what is possible for my life? So we're going to go through those 3 questions, and I'm going to change what you believe about what's possible for your life in a major way. All right, here's the wealth crisis in America today. This is a report from Goldman Sachs. Now, here's what you'll notice. The dark blue represents 1989, so you can see that in the corner there, in the top left corner. The light blue is 2016. So basically, this is a 30-year snapshot of what's happened to wealth in this country. So let's start in the right, where it says top 0.1. Now, this is not the top 1%. It's the top 1/10 of 1%. Now, what you'll notice, see, the dark blue is shorter. It's less than the light blue. So what that means is in the last 30 years, the top 1/10 of 1%, their wealth growth has gone from about 12% to about 17%. The top 1/10 of 1% controls or owns about 17% of the wealth in this country. Now let's look at the next 9/10, not 9%, but 9/10. You can see how that has grown substantially from about 27 to about 33, 34%. So if you just take the top 1%, top 1% own over 50% of the wealth of this country. Now, the next 9%, there's been a slight contraction. But if we look at those 3 categories, the top 10% own over 90% of the wealth in this country. Now, let's look at the 50 to 90%. The 50 to 90% of the middle class. This is the middle American financially. Look at the radical contraction from about 17 to 7%. The middle class has gone backwards financially in a powerful and profound way over the past 30 years. This wealth gap crisis, and my point has nothing to do with politics, it only has to do with one thing, is that the middle class are not keeping up. They're falling farther and farther behind, and here's why. They don't know the rules of the game when it comes to wealth growth. And they are losing the inflation battle. I like to say, inflation is either your best friend or your worst enemy. The rich know how to win the game, or they hire the people that know how to do this. Some of the things I'm going to share with you that I learned over my long journey in the real estate mortgage industry. What does it mean to be rich? This is the first thing. Now, this is not a facetious question. This is a real question to you. I want you to think, what does it mean to be rich to you? The truth is, 90% of people do not know what it means to be rich. Now, when I was young, I used to believe a big house and a fancy car was being rich. I grew up in Compton, California. We had a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, and it was in a pretty rough neighborhood. Nobody had a pool. Nobody had 2 stories. Nobody had 2 baths. If you had any of those things, in my mind, you were rich. But rich isn't any of those things. Here's what rich is. Rich means you have non-employment income, meaning you only work because you want to work. You don't have to work. You have income coming in every month from other sources, and that could be a pension, it could be Social Security, it could be investments, but other sources. And you've created a machine that's creating income, so before you get out of bed, you have income. That's what rich is. And here's my point to this conversation is that if you don't know what rich is, how are you going to get there? It's like any destination. You know where you want to go, but if you don't have the roadmap on how to get there, what are your chances that you're going to arrive there? The chances are slim and none. So where my journey began? My parents are 18 years older than mine. They have married at 17. They're born in Los Angeles. I said, up until high school, I basically grew up in Compton. My parents, and I never had a high school diploma. None of my uncles or aunts even have high school. The goal in our family wasn't to get a college degree. The goal was to get a high school diploma. And the goal was never to be rich. The goal was to get out of poverty and get to the middle class. Those were the dreams and the goals of what I grew up on. And the most profound thing that I learned in growing up in that environment was how few people believe that they can make that a reality. I learned the power of limiting beliefs, and that's why I titled my book, Why the Rich Stay Rich, Poor Stay Poor. If you don't believe your life can get better, it will not. But you know, 90% of the people in this country never change their life circumstance. Rich stay rich, middle class stay middle class, poor stay poor, all for the same reason. I've made this journey from Compton to Orange County and to now to way beyond that. The false belief about saving money. See, saving money is your only path to retirement. That's what most people believe, and that is not true. Now, I'm not discouraging saving money. Saving money is a great thing if you can do it, but the reality is over 40 years in the mortgage industry, how many loan apps I've taken, how many loans we've got, but it's in the thousands for sure. Very few save very much money. Now, if you can save, great, it just makes things even better. But my point is, even if you can't save, it doesn't matter. We can get you to the place of financial security, to retirement, and even serious wealth. Saving money is really not necessary. We have wealth building strategies that will bring you the life of your dreams without the struggle of saving. And I want to emphasize the word strategies. I'm going to show you what there's a formula, there's a process, there's a path that we can help you to build. Now, each strategy is going to vary depending on where you are in life, how old are you? That's relevant. All right, the old false belief to a safe financial life. Here's what we've all heard: get a good education, get a good job, set up a retirement account in a 401k, and save as much as you can. But how many people do you know that have followed this formula and failed? And I gotta say, I really feel, I have 4 kids now that have already gone, they're young adults, but they've gone the route. And I know plenty of their friends that have come out of college, and this was an illusion that was sold to them that turned out to be a really painful life, because they struggle to get jobs that may pay very much, and they have serious student debt. $150,000, $200,000 in student debt that they're not going to be able to pay off for 30 years. This is, and when I talk about beliefs, so much is about what you believe, but this is a false and inaccurate belief for most people. Our retirement is about two numbers. One is how much money is coming in each month, and two is how much money is going out. Now, I share this, I say it this way, because a lot of people get intimidated by numbers. But it's really just about two numbers. It's how much you have coming in, how much you have going out, and we need to organize that. I'm going to show you this process. But retirement should not be about how long can I live on my life savings. This is what most people are taught. This is exactly what financial planners teach. They teach, let's save as much as you can, let me invest it, and then when you hit 60 or 65 or in that neighborhood, you're going to retire and you're going to have somewhere around there, and then here's what we're going to do, and here's the rule of thumb they tell you. Well, let's retire. Let's set a goal, and if you're 30, give me an example, here's what we're going to tell you. Set up your 401k right at 30. Let's save money for the next 30 years. Then at 60, we're going to get you to retire. And then we're going to take your life savings and then we're going to pull out 4% a year for the next 25 years. And then you're going to run out of 85 and you're going to die broke. Do you see any problems with that strategy? There's all kinds of problems. And I'm going to show you the math on it. But the biggest one, what if you live longer than 85? Number two is, what do you think is going on in your mind and in your stomach every single time you pull out your life savings? Every month you're pulling this money out. You're watching that statement get smaller and smaller and smaller. And you're looking at this and going, oh my God, am I going to live too long? Am I going to run out of money? And your quality of life in your senior years gets worse and worse and worse because you're afraid to even go out to McDonald's to get any food. A lot of seniors are living that life, and you probably know them. I know them, and it's horrible, and it's tragic. And here's why they're in that place, because they believe this is the path, they are doing the right thing. They believe that I have to live on my life savings. That is a horrible plan. I'm going to show you there's a better way. Here are the major flaws of your 401k or IRA, the things that they don't tell you when you set up these accounts. Number one is, they'll say, okay, well, let's set up the 401k, and it's going to help you save some income taxes. So here's the logic, is we're going to take, let's say you have your salary. You say, okay, let me pull out $500 a month off the top pre-tax. So then we put that in there, and you don't have to, so you reduce the taxes for that year. That part is true. But then it goes into your retirement account, and then down the road, when you pull it out, then you got to pay the income tax, and you're paying a high level of ordinary income tax. Now, there's a way to get around that, and I'm going to share with you that. In California, it's doubly bad because of the fact that California is one of the highest tax states in the country. So these taxes are people now, I'm sure you know, and again, my point's not political, but here's the reality is the new administration is going to be raising all our taxes across the board, capital gains taxes and income taxes, estate taxes, these kinds of things, so that you get your wealth even harder. So as your wealth grows, so does the government's take of your retirement account, of your life savings. Next is it provides no income to help you along the way. And this is probably the one thing. Did I set up a 401k way back when? And I started putting a little bit of money in there, and I looked and said, now being in the real estate industry and the mortgage industry, it's very simple. We're tied to the economy. Interest rates go down, business is good. Interest rates go up, business is bad. So we had times when the economy was really bad, and I'm looking at this money sitting in the 401k. I'm thinking, God, I can sure use some of this money. But if I pull the money, you get hit with these big penalties. So you cannot touch the money, and you cannot touch the earnings. But that's your money. What gives them the right to penalize you? That's the way the government works. I think that's horrible. It's bad enough. You're struggling financially, and the government's going to kick you. That's exactly what they do. There's no help in your 30s, 40s, and 50s from your 401k or IRA because the government is going to kick you painfully if you try to get some help. is it's linear wealth growth. You only make money on your money. And I'm going to explain that in greater detail in a moment, but here's the point of that. You know, when I do these events, when we have a real audience, and I'll ask the people, we have these people around and say, look, how many of you believe people are getting rich in their 401k rider? Nobody raises their hand because they know. At best, your 401k is abandoned. And lastly, is you're losing the inflation battle. As I said before, inflation is your best friend, your worst enemy. The wealthy know how to win the inflation battle. The middle class do not. The middle class are losing the inflation battle. They're getting buried and they don't even know it. And worse than that is they believe there's no alternative. I'm going to show you how to win the battle. All right, but it's critically important that you understand the math and the numbers. And I know people get lost, so I'm going to go kind of slow here, but I'm going to walk through this. If you have questions on this, and again, make some notes if you have any questions, because it's critical you understand what I'm about to go through. But here's why your 401k is not your retirement solution. Let's say you're 40 years old and you want to retire by 65. Your monthly expenses are $6,500. So here's what this is like rent, or your mortgage payment, your utility bills, your food. This is everything that you pay. This is kind of in the middle of what we're seeing with clients. $6,500 a month in expenses. Save the $400 a month, and you have $20,000 in your retirement account. This is the norm. I'm telling you, 80% of the clients we work with have less than 50 grand in retirement. 80%. 10% are between 50 and 200, and then about 10% are above 200. Inflation in this country has averaged about 3% over the past 100 years. Now, there's a recent report showing that inflation is now about a little over 4%. But I'm going to tell you the reality of that. Those inflation numbers, which are tied to the consumer price index, are small sampling. They only pull about 30 different indicators to determine this number. Inflation, I'm telling you, is running way higher than this 3%. You just look at real estate prices, rent prices, lumber prices. Everything is skyrocketing right now. And let's say you average 4.5% net return. Now, here's what I mean by net. If you set up a 401k or IRA, those people that administer these accounts don't work for free. They're going to charge you. All right. And so whatever your gross earnings, so let's just say hypothetically, you average 6%, and their fees end up being about 1.5%, which is about the average. You're going to have a net of 4.5%. Here's the other thing that's critically important to be aware of when you're dealing with these money managers with a 401k or IRA is that their primary job is to not lose your money. That's their biggest job. It's not to make you money. It's to make you a little bit of money, but their bigger concern is not losing. Because when they lose money, then they lose clients. But as long as you're making a little something, then they don't lose very many clients. And here's the point of that. Is with that being said, what do you think they're going to be? Do you think they're going to be aggressive and try to create a lot of high returns for you, or more conservative? They're way more conservative. And here's what generally is part of that conservative strategy is your money will get placed at 4 different levels. Maybe 10% will be in an aggressive growth account. Then you have another 20, 30%, something that's moderate growth. Then you have something that's more conservative. And the last category is fixed income. Here's the point. Take those 4 categories, and you're lucky to net 4.5%. But let me show you what the math looks like if you go forward. And this is what we're talking about is with respect to what inflation is doing and why you're losing the inflation battle. Your total life savings is $282,000. So we're talking 25 years from now. Well, you got to pay the government. Here's a big shocker. You're retired. You've been trained. Hey, I got to live on my life savings. So you look, you say, well, I'm getting all of $2,000 a month Social Security. My bills used to be $6,500, but they've gone way up. So I got to pull some money. So you reach out to your financial company and say, hey, I want to pull out $5,000. They have $5,000 worth of bills to pay. Well, they say, wait a second. This isn't all your money. You got partners. You have the U.S. government, the IRS, and you have the state of California you got to pay. So if you have $5,000 you need to pay bills, we better distribute $7,500. And then guess what happens? You get stuck off. You go, oh my God. every month you're going to see your money evaporate really quickly. Now, in this scenario, you've allocated 30%, basically about 20% for federal, 10% for state. This number could be higher. If you're a high income person, it could be much higher. If you're lower income, it could be less than that. Here's your real life savings, way less than you think. Now your expenses have doubled. Whatever your lifestyle is today, in 22, 23 years, if you're going to maintain that same lifestyle, your expenses are going to double with inflation. Now, I don't know how many of you want to maintain the same lifestyle for the next 25 years, but my guess is it isn't very many. Most of us want our life to continue to get better. We want our quality of life to continue to improve. So this number would actually even be higher than that. Here's how much time, how long your money's going to last in that scenario. You take those expenses, divide them there, you can see it's not even a year and a half you retire. So what does that mean? How long can you retire? Well, if you can retire for 1.21 years, are you retiring? The answer is no. That's why the number of people who are able to retire is declining every year. Your monthly income on your life savings would be $1,060. Here's where your expenses have doubled. You got this $12,550 shortage. Now, this shortage is actually even more than this. Here's why I say that. If you need $12,550 a month to pay your bills, how much income do you need to make? Probably about $16,000, at least $16,000. So remember I said, being rich is about having non-employment income. Based on your current path, what you're saving, what you're able to save, and what you're working on with your 401k, what do you think the odds are you're going to have $16,000 a month in non-employment income? For most, when I talk about most, I'm talking about bottom 90%, slim and none are jobs. They don't know what. Now, let's say if your expenses are $13,610, and again, remember, this doesn't include the income tax. You get 4.5% return, you're going to need to save over $4,000 a month. Middle class Americans making 80 to 100 to 125,000, you think can save 4,000 a month. It's like thanks to zero. They would have to be living a lifestyle in poverty to be able to save that kind of money. But again, it gets back to what they believe. They have bought into the false belief that saving in a 401k is the only way to go. Saving in a 401k is going to crush you financially. It is going to put you in a really difficult place in your senior years. All right, so what is the fastest and safest path to wealth? 65% of Americans rely on stocks through their 401k or IRA to build their wealth, and less than 10% believe in real estate. Now, to repeat that, 65% have the belief that the 401k is their way because they've been told that their entire life. I'm going to show you right now how wrong that teaching is. You know, I got that myself. So we have to go back. Yeah, let me do this. All right, first let me show you, I'm going to prove to you how wrong this whole strategy is of the 401k. First, you can see under it's called the utility value of real estate. This is something that you won't see anyplace else. I'm going to share with you the numbers of how I learned this process, how critical this is. But let's say you have $60,000 and you put $60,000 in the stock market. You buy $60,000 worth of stock. And you get a net return of 8% on your money. Now, remember I said about net. So to get 8% return would mean you have to be actually making about 9.5%. Now, 8% is a strong percentage, but over the last 55 years, the S&P 500 is averaged about 8%. But here's the thing about when you have stock and rent. When you get stock, you get stock certificates. What can you use those stock certificates for? Well, the answer is nothing, right? They're just paper. You can't live in your stock certificate. So that means you have to live somewhere. So let's say you're renting. So the key point here is there's no utility value to stock. Let's say you're paying $3,000 a month in rent, and rents go up 4%. Now, California's statewide rent increase average for the whole state's about 4%. LA, Orange County, much higher than that. Now Riverside and San Bernardino, everybody's flocking out there, is much higher than that. But LA and Orange County typically are between 5 and 5.5%. So I'm using 4%. Here's my point: is I'm stacking the deck in favor of stock and rent by showing a much more aggressive growth rate and a lower expense rate. In 30 years, you'd have 603,000. I'm telling you, a financial planner, money manager, and any money would be ecstatic with that. They basically made your money grow tenfold. Look what you would have paid in rent, over $2 million. Here's the reality for renters, and this is just the tip of the iceberg for renters. Renters are going backwards financially every single day, and they don't even know it. They're losing money. They're losing the inflation value. There is literally nothing financially more devastating than paying rent, than being a renter. In 30 years, they have gone backwards. $1,415,000. How many people believe their financial planner told them? How many believe that their financial planner explained this to them? They don't tell them this. They don't show them this. They have nobody inputting their money here. They're going backwards every day. $1.4 million they've gone backwards. Now let's compare taking that $60,000, buying a $600,000 property with 10% down. So many people believe you have to put 20% down, which is ridiculous. You don't need to put 20% down. You don't even need to put 10% in. You can buy a property with 0 down. There's all kinds of down payments. But I'm going to use 10% because that's kind of the norm. So 10% down, 60,000. But now, what's different? We didn't get stock certificates. What did we get? We got real estate, meaning we got land and we have a structure. Because we have a tangible asset of land and structure, it can be used, meaning you can use it, or you can sell the utility to someone else, which we call a renter or a tenant, right? So that utility, that usage has money. So the big question is, how much money? What is that utility value worth? Well, let me show you what it's worth. It's going to blow your mind. Let's say the property only goes up 5%. Now, here's why I say, California's average appreciation rate has been 7.3% for the past 54 years. The last 5 years, it's been much higher than this. I'm going to show you the numbers of the past 5 years. But we're only using 5. So again, here's my point. If you're a financial planner, what I'm doing is I'm stacking the deck in favor of your team. All right, the financial planner 401k team is the first column. I'm stacking the deck. I've made it better for you. I'm showing you basically earning people 9.5% for 30 years, but you and I both know it's never going to happen. And instead of making 7.3% on the real estate side, we're setting it back to only 5%. Here's the mortgage payment, $35.52, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. In 30 years, that property is going to be worth $2.5 million at only 5%. Reality is, it's going to be closer to $3 million, but we're only doing $2.5 million. Here's what you would have paid over the 30 years, way less than rent. Here's money for expenses like paint, carpet, those kinds of things. Your net gain is $1,314,000. The point being is the utility value. Okay, the utility value means the ability to use the property. Look at those two numbers. 1.4 and 1.3 equals $2.7 million. The utility value in this scenario, with a $60,000 investment over 30 years, is worth $2.7 million. How many financial planners helping you with your 401k teaching this? How many real estate agents are teaching this? I'm telling you, no one. I read umpteen books. Nobody taught me this. I learned it because I started investing my money. I started doing the calculation. I started figuring this stuff out. Now, let's say you own a house and you turn your house into a rental. So now I'm talking to those of you that own real estate, they own a house, and you're all in on your 401k. You're like, oh yeah, I got my 401k, I got my financial money, oh, I'm good to go. My life and my retirement is secure. I am ready. Don't talk to me about anything else. Well, let me show you the difference. You turn your house, buy this property, now you turn it into a rental. Same numbers, but look, now you're collecting the $3,000 a month rent. You got $2 million that you collected in rent. We've pumped up the expenses because now we factored in a property manager, vacancy factor, all these other expenses. Your net gain's $3 million. That $60,000 investment in 30 years turns into $3 million. Put it in the stock market, it turned into $600,000. You see how much difference that's? 5 times difference. On average, real estate wealth growth will exceed the stock market 3 to 4 times more. On average. I'm going to show you, but it's important. This is one key component, but this isn't all of it. This is one key component, which is the utility value. But there's more that you need to learn. All right. Here's the second critical part of this. It's the 5 economic benefits of real estate. So I'm going to share with you these 5 economics, and I'm going to show you in this little poker chip presentation. So now I showed you a lot of numbers, but I want to show you the scale of the difference and the moving parts so you can understand the wealth growth dynamics and why the 401k for the stock market is such a loser value. All right, first, let's say the red chips represent your money. Oh, so we're going to switch this over so you can see the screen. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, well, that's fine. As long as they can see it, I just didn't see it up there normally. Normally I can see it, because I'd rather not see it. I'd rather see this. All right, okay, then move it out of the way, so I'd rather see it. All right, yeah, that's much better. All right, thank you. All right, so the red chips represent your money. So let's say you put $1 in the bank. Now, I'm using 1%. Let's say you get 1%. Around the bank, you get less than 1%. But for simplicity, let's say you get 1%. $1 equals 1 cent. Now, there are 3 huge problems with this. Number one problem is 1% is not very much money, right? So you're not doing that very well. Number 2 is you're actually losing money because of inflation. Inflation is running more like 3% plus. But here's the worst problem and why I created this poker chip presentation. This is linear wealth growth, meaning you're only making money in a straight line. Now let's compare it to stocks. Let's say you put another dollar in the stock market. $1 stock market, get 8%. $1, 8%. Way better than the bank, right? But you have those other problems that I shared with you. You're going to get hit with all kinds of taxes on this. Number 1, number 2, you can't pull this money out along the way. It does not help you. It doesn't help you pay for your kids in college. You know, I mean, you can set up a separate account, but you can't dip into this in your retirement. It's got to be for your retirement. Now, this money, if you get laid off, you have any challenges, your bills start going up, can't use it to help you out. Any of the earnings, any of the income, can't touch it without penalty. But again, the worst part of the problem is it's linear wealth growth, meaning you're going it alone. When is going it alone a good strategy? That's a good strategy. Going alone is no good. You're going it alone, you're only making money on your money. Now let's compare it to real estate. Let's say you take the same $1, but you buy a $10 property. So here's your 10% down. There's $9 the bank gives you. Okay? Why should they do? The bank loans you this $9. All right, so it's 10% down, but now we have a $10 asset versus 1. This is called leverage. So you can see leverage at the top. That's the leverage factor. So we got $1, $9 from the bank. So first economic benefit. Here's what's awesome about this. You have a $10 asset, not $1. But what the bank has loaned you 90% of the money. What percentage of the property does the bank own? The answer is 0. Here's why that's important, why that's relevant, is that you get 100% of the profits. You have a contract with the bank to pay them an interest, which right now is ridiculously low, like 3% or so. So you get 100% of the profits. Now, let me show you what that means. Now, let's say we take the appreciation rate of 5%. So we take the appreciation rate of 5%. 5% of $1, 5% of $1 is 5 cents. But 5% of $10 is 50. So here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is the appreciation rate. Now, we've only covered 2 economic benefits, and we've already blown away your 401k. Not even close. Here's what financial planners are going to tell you. And by the way, they're trying to balance financial planners because I've worked with them through the years. They only know what they know. The things I'm teaching you, they don't know. So there's not a conspiracy among financial planners to oppress you financially. That's not what's going on. They only know what they know. But here's what financial planners told me and what they're going to tell you in good faith. They're going to say, why would you want to be in real estate when real estate's rate of return nationwide is only 5% and stocks is 8? 8's bigger than 5, right? So that's why 65% of the people are in stocks, because the financial planners truly believe that stocks are better. Here's why they truly believe what's wrong. They don't know about the utility value, and they don't know about the 5 economic benefits. So in their mind, they're telling you the truth. But they're not telling you the truth because they don't know the whole truth. So here's the 5%. We only cover 2 economic benefits. All right. Is you have tax benefits. If you own a home, you can write off the mortgage interest up to $750,000 and up to $10,000 in state taxes, which would be your property tax. Now, if you're a high income earner, you're paying over the $10,000 in California state tax, then you won't be able to write off the property tax. But you write that mortgage interest deduction. So that's a big deduction on your earnings that we don't have over here. So you got mortgage interest deduction. All right, next is we have mortgage pay down. Every time you make a mortgage payment, a percentage of your payment is principal reduction and a percentage is interest. Here's what's so significant about it. The lower the interest rate goes, the higher the percentage payment that's principal reduction. See, this is really significant. Let me explain this again, because I want to make sure you get this, because most loan officers don't know what I'm about to share with you, let alone realtors or consumers. People in the industry don't know this. Everyone knows that if the interest rate goes down, the mortgage payment goes down, right? Everybody knows that. But here's an example. Is let's say you have an 8% mortgage, okay, versus 4%. Everybody says, well, I want 4% because my payment's going to be a lot less, I'm going to pay lower interest. That's all true. Everybody understands that. But here's what they don't know. Is at 4%, the percentage of your mortgage payment that is principal reduction is half of what it is at 8%. Now, here's why that's so significant, is that you're paying way less interest to the percentage of your total mortgage payment, because you want to see rent is all lost money, right? You write a check for rent, all lost money. You write a check for interest, that's all lost money. It's gone forever. But when you write a payment or you write a check for principal reduction, that's not lost money. That's like saving money in the bank. You're taking your loan balance down, which means you're creating equity. Equity equals wealth. So the point is, the lower your interest rate, the more wealth you're creating. So that's a principal reduction. All right, and here's the last one, is rental cash flow. Now, if you own a house, you live in it, you're not renting a room, well, there's no rental cash unless you rent a room. But if you're a homeowner and you turn your home into rental, now you start selling the utility value. Right, you're selling the utility, but no utility value, can't bring any income on that. Sucked. But you're selling the utility value to what we call a renter or a tenant. So this utility value here, renter's paying you this payment. Here's what's awesome about them. You're collecting this income every month and every year, you're raising the rent ahead of inflation. So if inflation's averaging 2.5%, 3%, and you're bumping your rents 4.5%, 5%, you're winning the inflation battle. You're getting income along the way. So you're getting income in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. That makes life easier, and you're not paying any income tax on it. You know why you're not paying income tax? Because you have significant tax write-offs. There's a huge tax write-off on rental properties called depreciation. And I won't get into explaining all of that right now, but that's one of the things we analyze in our wealth consultation. But here's the other profound part and the best part of all of it. Here's the best part of all of it. Bank loans you 90% to buy the property. So this is the money the bank loans you. You sell the utility value, so you're collecting the rent. You take the renter's money and pay off the bank's loan. So let me ask you a question. If I loan you this money and someone else pays it off with their money, doesn't the money I loaned you become free money? Absolutely. If I loan you money and you never pay it back, and someone else pays it back for you, it becomes free money. This is what the wealthy know. Is not only have you created massive wealth growth, but you've created massive free money. How much free money you getting in your 401k? None. It's you against the world. Here, you're creating massive amounts of free money, and it's not you against the world. Now, you're making money 5 different ways. Here's the big difference between the 401k and real estate. When you own a rental property, the truth of the matter is, you're in business for yourself. You're a business owner. You're like a hotel owner. See what hotel owners do? They rent bedrooms and ballrooms. It's not a rental. You rent bedrooms and bathrooms, but it's exactly the same thing. Now, let's imagine you own a hotel. If you own a hotel, do you need to be there checking in the guests every day behind the desk at the register? No. Do you need to go clean the rooms? No. Do you need to do the accounting and the books? No. Well, then, how do those things get done? Hire somebody. It's called real estate. So you can do all of these things if you want, or you can hire a property manager and they can take care of it. But you're a business owner, and this is why you're able to take advantage of all these other benefits. And as I said, a big part of it is the tax benefits are enormous compared to some. There's just literally no comparison. And the tax situation is going to get a lot worse. All right. I did a little analysis. This is something that if you haven't seen this, or if you've seen this presentation before, you haven't seen before. I just did this. This is fresh off the presses, basically. Presses are gone. All right, so it's fresh off the internet. Real estate versus stocks for the last 5 years. Now, the last 5 years have been pretty remarkable for real estate and stocks, but which one's better? Do you know right now? Okay, if you think it's stocks, please check on the box. I think it's stocks. If you think your 401k is outperforming real estate, say yes right now. I want to know how many of you think it's real estate or stocks, because everybody's talking about how the stock market does so well. You hear that all the time. Let me show you the difference right now over the last 5 years. All right. So let's say we put the 60,000 in real estate versus 60,000 in stocks. You bought a $600,000 property 5 years ago. Got your $60,000 worth of whatever kind of stock. Real estate has averaged appreciating 9.7% for the past 5 years. Pretty remarkable. I said we only use 5% in that earlier scenario, right? California's 50-year average 7.3, but the last 5 years have been 9.7, so pretty strong. Look at stocks. Dow Jones over the last 5 years, 14%. Again, what would a financial planner tell you? Look at stocks, 14%, real estate 9.7, 14 is bigger than 9.7, right? Wrong. Let me show you the real numbers. In 5 years, that $600,000 property has gone up to $953,000. Your stocks have doubled to $131,000. You made $404,000 on that one property. Stocks $57,000. Okay, now let's pause there. I want you to wrap your mind around that. 404 versus 57,000. Now let me ask you a question. How is it possible that 65% of the people are in the stock market, in the 401k, 65% and less than 10% in real estate. How is that possible? Look at the total compounded return because of the 5 economic benefits of real estate. Stock has 1 economic benefit, real estate's got 5. 48% compounded. The stock market compounded return over the past 5 years, 13%. So that does not include hitting stocks for all the income taxes. If you take the income tax you would have paid on this money, it's actually going to be closer to about 11. 48. So again, I ask you, how is it possible? It's 65% on the stock side and less than 10% on the real estate side. Here's why it's possible, because nobody's teaching this stuff. It's not teaching. Well, that's why I created the Mark Real Estate Wealth Academy. Okay. All right, I know what you're thinking. Didn't real estate values collapse just like the stock market? I keep hearing that all the time. Oh, real estate values going to collapse again? It really doesn't matter on real estate. Now, it matters on the stock market, and it especially matters if you're retired and you're on the stock side. Here's why it doesn't matter so much on the real estate side. Real estate is not just the fastest way to grow wealth, it's the safest way to grow wealth. Here's why. You might want to write this down because you're probably going to forget this. Real estate is the only asset that operates on 2 separate supply and demand components. Now, let me show you what that means. This is a history. You can see, by the way, it's on departmentnumbers.com. Okay, this is showing the California rental history, 2005 through 2019. First thing I want you to take note of, look at the median and the average of the blue and the green line. Look at the gradual, consistent growth. California rents have been tracking at over 4% an average rate like this since, as far as I can find stats, back to about 1942. So basically 80 years, real estate rents have been gradually rising. But here's the important point. Now let's look at 2008. Now let's say 2008, you're 65 years old, you're retired, you got $1 million in the stock market. Stock market collapses, your million becomes $500,000. Guess what happens to your retirement income? You got cut down. It's huge. God. Now if you're retired, that's a huge problem. Now you can't pay your bills. Let me ask you a question. What do you think the odds are the real estate market, the stock market, or let's say the overall economy, is going to take a hit again in your lifetime, like 2008? I think the odds are pretty good. Major economic recessions, they happen. In 2008, if all your money in retirement, you're living in that 401k, you get this big hit, you got big time problems. Now let's compare it to stock, to real estate. Now let's say you have this, let's say you have $1 million fourplex. $1 million asset, just like the 401k, $1 million asset, four units, generating $1,500 a month. What happened to rents in 2008? Now you'll notice there's a slight blip up. Why? Here's what happened in 2008. We had this financial meltdown. A lot of people lost their job, and those people lost their job, lost their house. But there was another element, is that a lot of people saw their property values dropped significantly, 40-50%. So there were a lot of people that had, let's say, a $600,000 house that went down to $400,000, but they owed $500 or $550, and they said, forget it, I'm not making payments, and they walked away. Here's my point, is a huge number of people walked away. But did they choose to be homeless? No, they chose to rent, so they went to rent it. So what you can see is that, this is my point, is that here are the 2 separate supply and demand components. The supply and demand component to purchase stocks in 2008 collapsed. The supply and demand component to purchase real estate in 2008 collapsed. But the demand to rent in 2008 did not. See, because real estate is the only asset that has a utility value, it is also the only asset that operates on a separate supply and demand component. And housing, there's a real housing shortage, which I'm sure you're aware of. That's the supply and demand. Low supply, big demand, stability. All right, so I know you're thinking, I know a lot of homeowners that aren't wealthy, and that is true. Here's why. is they don't know real estate wealth building strategy. See, is there a formula to going well? Absolutely. I've learned that formula. That's why we created this. We can get you on a path with a plan, a very specific plan. It depends on, are you 30, 40, 50, 60 years old? Are you a renter, a homeowner, or already an investor? All of those are variables, but we can put you on a plan that is far more reliable, far more forecastable, because real estate, when it comes to income growth, is way more reliable. You saw that in the rent history. Forecasting, when we get rid of your mortgage payments in that. Here are the 5 critical questions you need the answers to. Number 1 is, how much will your expenses be at the time of your retirement? We need to do an inflation adjustment or inflation analysis so you know what your numbers are going to be. Where are your expenses at today? Where are they going to be? How much money will you have saved at time of retirement after taxes? So I showed you what's happening. We can factor that in. Financial planners can do that too. Show you, here's based on what you're able to save, here's where your wealth's going to go. But what is it going to be worth after taxes? How long will your life savings last? This whole strategy of, hey, I'm going to save as much as I can live on, horrible strategy. Number 4, how much wealth and non-employment can you create in your life? What is possible? We're going to show you what's possible based, again, on where you're starting from. Number 5, how will you protect your assets from a major recession or lawsuit? If you ever notice the wealthy never go broke, here's why. They know how to protect it. And I've learned these strategies, and partly from my own investing through the years, but also from hiring expensive lawyers and accountants and things like that. And we're going to help you with that. So what is possible for your life? Well, there's only one way to find out what is possible. And that is by meeting with one of our real estate wealth advisors. We provide wealth building consulting. We're going to show you a path to take you from where you are to places way beyond probably what your wildest dreams are. Because what your dreams are, what you believe are all tied to the saving money in a 401k. Now I know what you're thinking, how much is it going to cost me? Consultation, absolutely free. You can go on our website, markhomewealthacademy.com. You see the /contacts and schedule an appointment. Do that right now. Here's why they're free. Here's how we make it. Our real estate wealth advisors are both licensed real estate agents and loan officers. We're going to educate you. We're going to guide you. We're going to help you put a plan together. If you choose to invest in real estate, then we will make money on trying to earn your business. What we do. So we want to make you our clients, the real estate side or the loan side. Real estate wealth advisors, both agents and loan officers. That's what we make money. So there's zero risk is my point in this. We can change your life in a powerful and profound way. Here's our client information sheet. This is on the website. It's super simple. All of this information pretty much you know in your head. Your name, where you live, your phone number. Do you own or rent? If you own, how much do you owe on your property? What is it worth? What kind of assets do you have at the bank? Do you have any other rentals? Do you have a 401k? Very simple. Take 5 minutes to fill it out. Now, you don't have to provide this to do the consultation. We can do an online consultation, have to come in, nothing, and they say it's free, so it's zero risk. But if you fill this out, it'd be really helpful because we can drill down deeper and really help you a lot at a much deeper level. All right, to recap, here's the 3 questions. But what is the fastest and safest path to wealth? It's absolutely real estate. It's not even close. Is there a formula to wealth that you can follow? Yes, I can teach you that formula, but I need to know where you're at today and what your goals are. Put that plan together. And what is possible is way beyond what you dream. The struggle of fear and doubt. This is the biggest obstacle. We all have that negative voice in our head. That voice that it's a voice of fear, it's a voice of doubt. But I've made this journey. I know the path. I can share with you this, teach you step by step. When you know how to do something, it changes everything. This is the title of my book, Why the Rich Stay Poor. This is what I learned. As I said earlier, 90% of the people never change their life circumstance because of what they believe. Without belief, all's lost and it's game over. Number two is know-how. This is the first step. Is open your mind by learning more. We're going to teach you exactly what you need to do, how to do it, when to do it. Then when you have the plan, you got to take action. Without action, nothing's going to happen. Here's my favorite verse in the Bible. According to your faith, be it unto you. Here's what it's saying. According to what you believe will come to pass. The reason 90% of the people never change their life circumstance is because they don't believe it's possible. And because they don't believe it's possible, they do not try. They give up. Now, the fact that you're watching this presentation is an awesome first step. But the second big step is doing these free consultations so we can learn what's possible, how we can get you to the life that you really want to have. Again, our consultations are free. Go to our markmanwealthacademy.com website. In fact, I'm going to show you, just take you to the website right now. I'm going to show you a couple things on our website real quick, and then if you have any questions, now's a good time to start putting them in there. But I'm going to show you a couple of tools that we've created for you. All right, here's our website, markmanwealthacademy.com. You can see on here how you register for events. But let's go under, look under resources, and then you can see the retirement calculators. We've got a couple calculators. I'm going to show you a couple exercises that you can do real quick. Here's our future retirement calculator where you can enter in the number of years, your current expenses. So let's just do a quick scenario. We'll change the numbers a little bit. Let's go over 25 years. 7,500 a month in current expenses. Let's say they're saving 1,000 a month in their 401k. 4.5. Let's see. So this is better than, I'm telling you, this is better than 90% of the people that we have as clients. Here's their scenario. They're going to have $860,000. Here's where their expenses have grown. Years of retirement, less than 5 years. And this does not include the income tax calculation. It's actually less than that. It's closer to about 3.5, 4 years when you factor in income tax. These are the challenges. You need to do this. You need to understand 401k and IRA is a loser strategy for 90% of you. You're not going to get there. It's mathematically simply not possible because you can't save anywhere near enough to win the inflation battle. Those are the facts. That is just the truth. Those are the cold hard facts. If your whole game plan is I am invested, I got a financial planner, I got a 401k, you better do this math. This is why we need to do the consultations. Because you don't have a do-over. There are no financial do-overs. You screw this one up, man, the last thing you want to be doing is hurt from 65 to the time you drop. And that's the sad reality where none of our seniors are in. All right, now one last thing I'm going to show you on the inflation. Here's a quick little exercise of my renter friends. I like to show this now because people really have a hard time wrapping their minds around inflation. And when I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 years old, the rent I was paying and splitting this with a high school friend was $315 a month. Now, we figured this out. A 5% rent increases. 44 years. That's about what that place rents for. So here's my point. If you live in LA or Orange County, you need to do this math. So let's take $3,000 a month in rent. Put $3,000 in there. Look what the rent would be. 44 years. 25,000 a month. You believe that? Hard to wrap your mind around that, right? See, when I go back to 315, it's hard for me to reverse look and say, wow, rent was $315. But watch the old movies. I'm sure they're classic movies. You see these people, paying a nickel for a cup of coffee. How would we pay in Starbucks? $3.50 or something like that. You think those people that were paying a nickel back in the 50s would believe that they paid $3.50 for a cup of coffee? No, this is This is why the 401k is such a losing strategy. Inflation is just too much of a challenge. All right, do you have any questions?
Not as of the last time I checked it.
Okay. All right, so here it makes it the next step. We will reach out to you to talk, to follow up to see if you have any questions on this. If you want to get into a consultation, you can register on there, on the website. In fact, let's show them where the consultation part is. Yeah, here's the client information sheet. So this is where you want to fill out this client information sheet. If you want to get into the consultation, it will show you the path. But what is possible for you is so beyond what you believe. Well, these are our testimonial videos that are on there. You can see, the number of clients that we've people are just blown away at what is possible because of this utility value, SPY economic, and so on. All right, well, I'm Mark Prather, founder of Markman Mortgage, Markman Wealth, and I appreciate you being with us today, and hopefully, we'll be talking soon. Have a great weekend.